You are listening to This Week in Clown World with Ben and Hobbs, so sit back, relax, take your black pill, and enjoy the show.
And we're live. I hope fucking Hobbs is
so.
here.
I see you. I hear you. Now, whether or not anybody else on the internet can see and hear me is anybody's guess. We were having some serious technical difficulties over here on my end. I'm having to use my phone and my headset because for some reason my computer doesn't want to connect to the internet. So hopefully you guys are seeing this. Welcome to This Week in Clown World with Ben and Hobbs. I'm Hobbs. He's Ben. You are in Clown World. And we had a couple of weeks off there doing white boy summer activities like blowing shit up with fireworks and lazing around on the river. How have you been, Ben?
I've been well. It's good to get a show going. We were talking about it'd be 3 weeks if we couldn't get this going. So we're plowing through it. We're going to hope your tech issues hold out. Your phone battery doesn't die.
I'm at 49% right now, so we'll see if that's enough to last us through the entire show. Been a lot happened in the last couple of weeks. I just want to relay to kind of set everybody's mind at ease. Mitch McConnell called me this morning. We had a conversation that lasted about 20 minutes. He's doing fine. Never been better, of course. And he said, Hobbs, I know that people are worried right now, but white boy summer is still on.
I understand he's battling the psychic witches of Reddit in the nether realm.
Yes. Yes. And in case you guys hadn't seen the green text floating around, well, it wasn't a green text. It was a Reddit post. Apparently the Reddit witches are out there trying to cast hexes on Mitch McConnell, of all people. The guy's like 800,000 years old. He's got 1 foot in the grave, and for whatever reason, the Reddit witches have decided to cast their psychic energy towards him for his impending demise. And one Reddit witch said that he is a very powerful spiritual presence. Do not summon Mitch McConnell. He will wreck you. And I just have to reiterate my previous position that Reddit witches are lame and gay and retarded.
I'm not doubtful that Mitch McConnell does have a disturbing presence within the warp.
You think he's like the God Emperor, where he's basically a corpse in the corporeal plane, but he's got massive psyker energy?
Yeah, they're sacrificing whatever they sacrifice in DC to keep him alive, and he's like a beacon in the warp at this point.
Do you think they might have sacrificed Lindsey Graham to keep Mitch McConnell alive?
I think JD Vance visited him to discuss something, and that was all it took.
Man, there's been a lot going on. There's a lot of like weird references that we're making here.
Have you seen the Lindsey Graham theory that was floating around that he actually was blown up in the Ukraine? And
yeah, the timelines on those are very, very coincidental.
He visited that drone facility, and what was it, hours later, or how much time passed and it was reported it was leveled in rubble?
It was really close. Now the thing about the timeline that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense in some people's professional views, including a Lieutenant Colonel, I want to say his name is Lieutenant Colonel Johnson. He's a former intelligence guy, and he was laying out the timeline where, from the point that Lindsey Graham left DC, flew across the ocean to Poland, got on a train in Poland, took an 8-hour train ride into Ukraine. He would have had to got off the train, got in the factory, walked around for less than an hour, and then immediately got back on the train, back on the plane, been back in DC, and then suffered the heart attack. So it's why would he fly halfway around the world for just a 1-hour tour of some obscure little...
And why did he take a train in and then was direct flighted out? That seems kind of odd, doesn't it?
Yeah, so the timeline does seem a little bit weird. I haven't seen any definitive proof, just a lot of speculation where the timelines don't match up. And obviously, a high-profile character like Lindsey Graham going over to Ukraine, they're probably going to fudge the schedules a little bit so that obviously Russia doesn't try to kill him. But it really was. It was like he toured this facility and then he got out and then it blew up a few hours later. Now, my personal opinion on this is that Lindsey being in a war zone in a munitions factory suffered a massive priapism, which dropped his blood pressure, and that's what actually caused his heart attack because he's just rock hard for war all the time.
Yeah, well, it'd be pretty easy to hit the morgue and grab a relatively rotund homeless guy and throw one of those masks on him that was on the dude that was on Fox News.
Yeah, one of the rubber CIA masks.
Yeah, and trot him out for a funeral. Because think of how embarrassing that would be to have to report that, and then, I mean, that's a situation nobody wants to have to act on. That Russia intentionally blew up a factory with a U.S. politician in it.
Yeah, that would be what the kids refer to as an international incident.
Mm-hmm. Nothing to gain by letting that be known.
Yeah,
so yeah, that was
that'd be embarrassing on both sides.
Yeah, it's kind of all of a sudden to happen. It's weird that Mitch McConnell maybe outlived him at this point. We've had the one proof of life photo.
Yeah, that may or may not be AI generated or 6 years old.
And I saw some story today where what was it? The governor of Kentucky had
Randy
somebody
Bashir.
tell him. Yeah, had somebody tell him that McConnell had died, and then was later like, "Oh wait, never mind."
Yeah.
I'd gotten 2 calls from 2 different agencies suggesting that he had passed away. Is what he said directly.
And then oopsies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
It's crazy. Yeah, we'll see. The thing that's probably the weirdest about the Mitch McConnell thing, other than the no proof of life, is the fact that the guy goes in to the hospital and then 3 days later his wife is on a plane to Beijing for a personal meeting with the vice president of China, all but confirming that his wife, Elaine Chao, is undoubtedly a Chinese asset.
Yeah, I thought that was weird that his wife was a younger Chinese lady who's kind of been active in government since the Bush years.
Yeah, she was George W. Bush's transportation secretary, which, not to get too far off on a jag, having an Asian woman as your transportation secretary is a little bit odd considering their reputation for being bad drivers, but that's neither here nor there.
A little on the nose, just kind of an inside joke among... Hey, let's appoint this Asian woman as transportation director and see if anybody notices the irony.
Yeah, it's another bullet point in the idea that your entire government is nothing but an elaborate humiliation ritual.
Yeah, I mean, we could segue into your other Chinese story real quick about Chinese voter interference, supposedly.
Boy, howdy. That is a topic that could probably take up a whole hour on its own. So, kind of the footnotes here is that Donald Trump got up in front of the country to give a speech about the revelations of voter interference in the 2020 elections and other elections, and laid out that he would be declassifying several thousand documents from various intelligence community sources, stating that China had access to over 220 million Americans' voter records, that they had, through one method or another, got a hold of those things, that China had backdoor access to the various voting machines through stealthily installed wireless transmitters that are not allowed to be installed in those things. that they were working through cutouts in Taiwan and Venezuela in order to get those machines, and that the Hugo Chavez election was kind of the test bed to see how these machines could be used to manipulate elections.
Which I had no idea until recently how overrepresented Venezuela was in election machine production.
Yes, because that is a country that I think of when I think of secure elections.
It seems so weird when it's like these election companies it's like they're sourcing their software from Venezuela and it's like, what? Any other country besides a backwater Latin America country, it might make sense that they're producing election machines.
Right. And that's kind of what the report was hinting at, was that the election machines allegedly came from Taiwan, but those machines were built under, a cutout corporation owned by the CCP in Taiwan with various software and hardware add-ons that were not part of the original schematics, and they have wireless access when they should not have. They should be air-gapped, essentially, and they weren't. Some of the other points, they were saying that the Chinese government was actively paying members of the U.S. media to write negative stories about President Trump. They were nudging owners of American businesses to either cut ties with the U.S. government or make it in such a way that contracts with the U.S. government were unfavorable, or just, basically slow walk the economy so that the economy wasn't as good as it probably should have been. I mean, China's got their fingerprints all over a lot of our elections, and these documents are, in a lot of ways, it's cut and dry treason. There are a lot of people who are named in these documents, including the insider threat assessment manager at Microsoft was a former FBI agent who there is an email from her to somebody else who was redacted, and she out and out said, "I basically run a shadow government at the FBI, and we're doing what we can." So, high-level executive at Microsoft, former FBI agent, engaged in sedition. And I watched Alex Jones's breakdown of this on Friday night or Thursday night or Friday night, whenever it was. And he had on Patrick Byrne, and him and Patrick Byrne were very excited about the revelations that were coming from this. And then the very next day, Harrison Smith's his show, he was like, yes, there's a lot of smoking gun evidence that is being relayed in these documents. What is going to happen? And that's been the recurring case going back to Trump's first administration in 2016, 2017. You had the quippy line where he told Hillary Clinton that she'd be in jail. Nothing came of that. You had all of the openly seditious behavior by the intelligence community and domestic law enforcement against the president. Nothing ever came of that. You had Comey's indictment earlier, late last year. Nothing came of that. You got James Clapper and John Brennan and Jim Comey and this chick at the FBI, I forget what her name was. All of these people where it's slam dunk, or it would be slam dunk if it was somebody like you or me engaged in it. But because these people are too big to jail, nothing's going to come of it.
And you say that, and we did have somebody that I thought was kind of like you or me in there, and that was Dan Bongino. And he ended up turning into a total simp for the administration. I used to watch his show fairly often, but I refuse to at this point.
Yeah, I used to watch his show every single day. I watched his show right up until the very last episode of when he signed off for the last time to go be deputy director at the FBI. And then that whole thing came out, and then he came back, and I think I watched the first episode, and I was just disgusted. I'm like, I can't watch this. He slotted right back into his old time slot and acted like absolutely nothing happened. He got mad a couple of times because people in the chat were like, what about the Epstein files? What about the Epstein files? And after that, I'm like, I'm not going to give this guy any more airtime.
it seems like the only reason it gets mentioned anymore is for talking shit about Tucker.
Yeah. You know, Tucker is doing the Aurelius, the job of the Aurigus, the guy, the slave whose job it was to occasionally lean into Caesar's ear and be like, "Remember, you are only a man." And Tucker's gone on to some wild jags lately, but by and large, he's the guy who's out there being like, this is what you told the American people you would do. This is why the American people put you back into office after seeing 4 years of Joe Biden fuck everything up. Why are you letting everybody down? And rather than course correct and do a moment of introspection and do what was promised to us, or at least in that direction, instead we're another Middle Eastern forever war.
Yeah, I mean, Tucker lately, I mean, he's been getting into the occult stuff within the federal government, and I don't know if that's a great, I don't know why he's leaning into that. I don't disagree with it personally, but I think it's too much for the normies. Tucker's kind of a bridge between the normies and getting to the, well, you don't want to say we're woke, getting to the people that are black pilled, I guess would be the best way to put it. And I think he's kind of burning that bridge down with what he's been doing lately.
Right. He's his transition into some of the more nefarious things behind global government, I think, was too much too fast. I haven't watched a lot of his recent episodes. I know he recently had an episode with Jay Dyer, who is somebody who's very well versed in the sort of occult symbolism, as well as things like the Sabbatean Frankists and the Fabian Society over in the UK, and all of these sort of like esoteric mysticism that a lot of people either don't believe in or they don't want to believe that the people who make up their governments are involved in. But to anybody that can take a look at it with an open eye, it becomes fairly obvious that a lot of the nefarious things that our governments around the world, plural, not just the United States, but governments, plural, are engaged in are almost in a way large-scale human sacrifice.
Yeah, and I kind of feel like some of his stuff, it gets into kind of the Alex Jones glory days, I guess is the way I would put it. A little bit
Alex Jones, a little bit Art Bell.
Yeah, and maybe that's where he's going with his show, which if that's what he's going to be, fine. I just thought that just now, looking at you said something you'd done lately, and I looked at his past couple shows, and it's like this is looking very Alex Jones-ish in what he's doing.
Yeah, and Alex Jones himself, in probably the last 10 years or so, has kind of shifted away from that sort of stuff and more into a hard media and almost like an interview type show. So the thing that got me back into Alex Jones, like I fell off for like 5 or 6 years back in like 2010 through 2014, 15. The thing that got me back into Alex Jones was I was on YouTube when I was working night shift at this place. I just saw an Alex Jones video pop up. I'm like, oh, I wonder what he's been up to. I haven't watched him in a while. And his show has gone from these sorts of like deep dives into, secret documents or leaked documents. And he still does a lot of that. But a lot of it now is he has on a lot of people that he interviews on his show that are experts in a field or have inside knowledge. And that's kind of what Alex Jones has turned into. And that, in a way, that's what Tucker's doing too, because it's always him one-on-one with somebody. But a lot of the topics that Tucker is kind of exploring now is less like the hard data and more of this kind of spook shit.
Yeah, and he's very, Alex Jones. I've been listening to him much lately. He was getting kind of wishy washy on Israel there for a bit. Tucker is still very hard on Israel. Is Alex Jones still kind of?
No.
Okay.
No, him and especially Harrison Smith are like, what are we doing with these people? Why do we call them our ally? And,
Which, did you watch any of the JD Vance Joe Rogan interview?
I've seen a few clips, and I was happy with the way that it went.
Yeah, I mean, basically, JD Vance tried to distance himself from a lot of things. Like the big comment he made. I mean, we're talking about Israel, so he claimed that there was parts within the Israeli government that were trying to manipulate public opinion to keep the Iran war going indefinitely. When you and I have both brought up, it's like, what is the goal of this thing?
Well, the goal of this thing is the Yinon Plan. The Yinon Plan is Israel's desire to destabilize the entire region around them, so that these various nation states that were set up after the British and French mandate, kind of carved up the nation states borders that we have now. So essentially, Israel being so small and such a small population, they realized after like the various wars that they had in like the 1960s that a unified pan-Arab force against them would be a death sentence for them. Even with the backing of the United States, the logistics train is just, it's too much of a strain. We've got our own problems to deal with. So they came up with this thing called the Yinon Plan, which essentially says to destabilize these various nations along like sectarian lines, like Sunni versus Shiites versus Alawites versus Druze versus Christians versus whatever ethnic groups. And you have these people fighting amongst themselves. They'll be too busy fighting themselves to fight Israel. And then Israel can slowly gobble up pieces of like southern Lebanon and the Golan Heights in Syria and pieces of western Iraq. Basically they're just trying to get their old biblical Judea put back together. And that's the whole purpose of the Yinon Plan. And I think that what's going on right now is the Yinon Plan was working, but the people that are in power right now, rather than having the century plan where I'm going to start this or I'm going to continue this thing and it will be up to my grandchildren to see it through, a lot of the people like Smotrich and Ben-Gvir and Netanyahu decided that the time to take the big bite at the apple is right now, and I will be the one to see this through. And unfortunately for them, they're choking on their bite.
Well, and the story that came out today too, I'll lead into that. So it seemed to catch most our government off guard, and I think I commented how weird it was at the time that when we attacked Iran, they just started lobbing missiles haphazardly at all their neighbors. And
there's nothing haphazard about it.
Yeah, so this kind of ties into the Yinon Plan here. The story that came out today was that Ahmadinejad, you remember him? He was a Mossad asset, basically. So I'm sure Israel knew that, Ahmadinejad would have been in on this planning back when he was, president or whatever of Iran, that, if somebody attacks us, we're going to, cutting off the Strait of Hormuz, that was an easy one to predict. But
everybody but our own government just figured that one out.
But firing missiles all over the Gulf Coast region, that disrupts everything. Obviously, Israel knew it would happen because if Ahmadinejad was one of their assets, he would have told them what would happen.
Yeah, and it just goes to show how adept that organization is at their plans. Because I remember, like, towards the tail end of my Army service, like 2010, 11, 12, I remember stories about Ahmadinejad, and he was an absolute firebrand talking about the great Satan and the little Satan, which is us in Israel. And he was in the news a lot for his fiery speeches. And if it turns out that he was a Mossad asset that far back, then it just goes to show the levels of manipulation that's going on, not just of the United States, but of the people of Iran too. Because if the people of Iran knew that their president is up there screaming about the little Satan, which is Israel, while being on the payroll of Israel, you can imagine that would have caused that whole powder keg over there to explode.
Which it seems weird that Vance is distancing himself from Israel in a way, because isn't, I'm just guessing, I'll have to look it up. I'm assuming Peter Thiel wears a small hat. Do you know?
I don't know. I don't know if he is or not. I know that Alex Karp is.
Let's see. Peter Thiel. What is it? Early life. Does not look like Peter Thiel is a tiny hat wearer. His family was Germans that came over in the 60s.
Yeah.
The area that his family came from had, definitely not a tiny hat guy.
The thing about what Vance was doing is purely political, because right now you've got the JD Vance wing and you've got the Marco Rubio wing. Vance and Marco are hedging their bets right now and deciding where this whole Iran war and our relationship with Israel goes in the public mind. If things go south any further and the United States, the people of the United States, sour even more on the relation with Israel, then J.D. Vance is going to be put forward as the moderate who advised the president against going into war with Iran on Israel's behalf. But if this Iran war thing turns around and the United States has what could be spun as a definitive victory, if there's some type of a revolution, or if there's some type of lasting peace deal signed with the Iranians, then the Marco Rubio position becomes the one that people will gravitate towards, and he will be put forward in 2028 as the front runner for the GOP nomination. I still think that DeSantis is going to be the dark horse to watch. He's been extremely quiet about everything, which is uncharacteristic for somebody with his political profile. Now, that being said, DeSantis did have that law, that anti-BDS law, that he signed into law in Jerusalem a few years back. And this was back when Israel was like at all-time high in the public mind. So DeSantis is kind of playing a dangerous game if he has aspirations for a 2028 run, because it's only, a short trip to the Wayback Machine to pull that particular incident up and be like, oh, you didn't have word to say on Palestine, Gaza, or our involvement in Iran, but you did this.
Yeah.
And then that torpedoes his chances in 2028 if public perception of Israel continues to slide further.
Yeah. And it was interesting too. He also, I just thought it was a really interesting interview to see, obviously next in line for the president, if anything happens to Trump, that he was so willing to talk on Joe Rogan about various things. Like he also talked about, in addition to Israel trying to tank the peace efforts to get out of Iran, that there's a lot within the GOP that are actively trying to tank it. Now he didn't name names or anything, but it's pretty easy to figure out who the GOP war hawks are. And, you kind of wonder what the conversations are like that he's getting in. We have some comments, a good one here. It's stranger still commenting on Vance separating from Israel because his future wife, Erica Kirk Vance, is such an obvious asset. Yeah, they got to write Usha out somehow.
Yeah. I don't know. That's maybe Vance is going to come out of left field with a proposal to re-legalize polygamy, and he can just have both of them.
Yeah, and and to back up to the China story before we got off on this, I was reminded of something that popped up in one of our chats. How Trump comes out and says how all this interference is going on, but he's done nothing to deport or get rid of any of the parties responsible.
Well, not only that, but we're bringing in 500,000 or 600,000 Chinese students as part of the trade deal that he wrote with China. That to me, just you're going to get up there and you're going to pound your fist on the podium about how China is interfering, and you want to bring in 500,000 of them and seed them around in our top universities to steal God knows what intellectual property.
Shit, and I wanted to research this before we got on the show because I thought of it, but to back up to I'm wandering all over here. Sorry. The decision that was made by the Supreme Court about birthright citizenship.
Oh, and, that was another thing that happened.
And then one of the justices laid out the case line by line, pretty much like, all right, we can't get rid of birthright citizenship, but here is a bullet point stuff in bold how to work your way around it. Which justice was it? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I think that would have been. Was that Kavanaugh that did that?
I think it was.
Which more power to him. But while you look that up, we can talk about the birthright citizenship thing. We've talked about it on the show before about how there's possibly up to 1 million to 1.5 million American citizens who were birth tourismed in here from China. And a lot of times they weren't even brought into the United States. They were just brought to Guam. Mm-hmm. Which is literally like a puddle jumper flight away, and then they get birthed on Guam, and then they've got automatic U.S. citizenship, and then they fly back to China to be raised in China, to be raised as Chinese citizens, to be schooled in Chinese schools and brought up as culturally Chinese people with an American citizenship that allows them to vote in our elections, and 1.5 million is enough to sway any election. Especially considering that a lot of our elections are decided by a couple of thousand votes.
Especially in these states that don't check up on anything. It's like sprinkle these citizens around, living wherever, and China can influence plenty of elections.
Right. These Chinese American citizens, they may have been born in Guam or California, which is the two largest populations. But once they turn 18 and they start demanding their absentee ballots, they could literally claim residence in any state where it just needs a little nudge in one direction or another. You go to any of these purple battleground states, and 20, 30,000 Chinese are suddenly having a residency there. Or when these kids come of age, they could be in this 500,000 people that are brought in for on student visas, but they won't be on visas because they'll be American citizens. Where are they going to go? They're going to go to places like Wisconsin and Pennsylvania and New Mexico and other places that are battleground states.
Here's the quick comment. There's more to it, but Kavanaugh says, in my view, the executive order does not violate the 14th Amendment. The order does contravene a federal statute referring to the law specifying birthright parameters. Congress could, consistent with the 14th Amendment, amend this law or enact new legislation establishing exceptions to birthright citizenship for children born to foreign citizens unlawfully or temporarily in the country, but Congress has not done so. Bingo, bango, that's easy to do,
Well, but so is the SAVE Act. And yet they've dragged their feet on that. the thing about this Congress is that there's a lot of easy things that they could do. We got Republican control of the House, we got Republican control of the Senate, and even though the filibuster is in place and non-budgetary items require a 60-vote threshold, there are ways around that. They're frustrated right now because they know that if we do away with the filibuster, then it's anything goes at that point. All the Democrats need is a 51 vote majority, and even like 47, 48. There's enough squishy Republicans that would easily jump ship to either pass or vote against laws that would be in the U.S. citizens' best interest, and they know that because I said that I was disgusted with Dan Bongino, but he has a saying that he has on his show, or at least he had on his show, where he said that it was something like every Democrat is a Democrat, but not every Republican is a Republican, or something along those lines, or that you can guarantee that the Democrats are going to vote left on everything. You cannot guarantee that the Republicans are going to vote right on everything. There is a unity that exists amongst the political left that simply does not exist amongst the political right.
Well, yeah. I mean,
except John Fetterman.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know if he's speaking of the left and staying united. The Democrat Socialists of America pulled a whoopsie daisy and laid their plan for America out for everyone to see. I don't know if you saw that.
Well, they do that. They do that every year. But the problem is that they're winning so many local elections right now that it's getting more attention than it normally does. And in a way, it's biting them in the ass. I watched a video tonight when I was at lunch about how prior to, let's say about 2 or 3 weeks ago, the polls were putting Democrats at like 8 to 10 points ahead for retaking the House. And recently that has dropped down to 2 to 6. Mm-hmm. And if you remember back in 2018, when there was the talk of the blue wave, a lot of these polls had the Democrats up by double digits, 12, 13%. And the actual shaking out of the 2018 midterms was barely a blip. So if the Democrats are polling at 2 to 6 now, when they were polling at 12 to 13 8 years ago, it doesn't sound too good for the Democrats. And the reason that is because these DSA candidates in their local elections and in their primaries are causing so much spotlight onto their actual party platform that people are taking a look at it and going, these people are fucking nuts.
Well, and believe it or not, here in Nebraska, we even have he's not out. He's obviously DSA, even though he says he's an independent, this Dan Osborne guy. He recruited Graham Plattner, who was outspokenly DSA. That's the new strategy, is to just kind of not really talk about your platform, or he's running as an independent, Mm-hmm. So they're trying to sneak in there now. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know that they have a plan for once they get elected, because obviously if you sneak somebody in a state like Nebraska's DSA, they're only good for one term.
Yeah.
They'll get voted
out. But that's all they think they need.
Yeah. They think if they can get enough of them, I guess if they think they can get enough of them and pull the party far enough left for one election cycle, they can disrupt everything.
Right. And this goes towards Carolyn Borisenko's constant alarm ringing about the general strike on May the 1st of 2028. Because you have these DSA candidates that are essentially trying to pull the Abigail Spanberger approach, where you run as a moderate, and then as soon as you take the reins of power, you just go full tilt boogie on being the most insane communist that you possibly can. And unfortunately, their profile is high enough right now that people are actually paying attention and seeing exactly what these people are planning on doing. and they don't like it. And that's the thing about leftist politics is that it cannot win on its own merit. It has to be subversive. It has to lie.
Well, and not to keep hitting back to the Vance interview, but he talked about this in the interview, how the Republicans need to, they need to get their shit together and do something for these younger people, or they're going to just try. I mean, if nothing else, if you're given an option, you're like, hey, you have this option here, hasn't done shit for you, vote for it. Why would they vote for it? They're going to try something else. Vance
exactly.
brought up that, the GOP needs to start working on fixing it for younger people, or they're going to try socialist candidates. Why wouldn't you? If you can't afford a house, you have no hope of ever retiring, why wouldn't you try something different? I can't blame them.
Well, yeah.
But then Trump does this dumb shit thing where there was no reason to fight this Housing Affordability Act, but he threw a tantrum and didn't want to sign his name on it. So it makes it look like, even though it passed with a lot of GOP support, it makes it look like the GOP is saying, fuck you getting a house.
Right, because Trump's a real estate guy and all of his assets are tied up in real estate. And he realizes that if housing goes down, then the property values go down, and a lot of people in his age cohort will lose their shirt. And that's what he's thinking of. He's thinking, and I can't blame Trump for doing this. He's a numbers guy. He's a business guy. It's all just on the bottom line for him. But there are young people out there that see the system as it is right now is not working, and things are getting worse. And your only two options, the only two sides out there, is one side is saying, fuck you, work harder. And the other side is saying, no, burn it to the ground and give us a chance. We'll give you everything that you want. And a lot of young people, all people like our age and younger, spend 12 to 20 years getting indoctrinated in these public schools and the university system that communism is actually a good thing, and it just hasn't been implemented properly. And then you've got these politicians that are coming up, these rising leftist stars are coming up and saying, like, we know how to implement communism correctly, and the other people are telling you to just pull yourself up by your bootstraps, and you're too poor to own boots, so why don't you just come onto our side? And the young people are taking a look at that and saying, like, yeah, why don't we go over to that side and give this communism thing one more chance? Even though every time it's been tried in the past, it ends up in a mountain of skulls. This time, I think we can get it right.
Which, thank God, Mondani seems to be a total fuck up. I mean, he hasn't done anything effective yet. He has a fully left government behind him, but he seems incapable of making his policies work, which, obviously the libertarian wants to say that no way a socialist policy will work. But, when you have an environment with that many far leftists, you think they could get one of his policies to work. But, hopefully they can use that as, look, he tried it, didn't work for shit, don't try it. But I think I kind of get the feeling that Vance bringing this stuff up, that how the GOP, he was kind of pointing out how the GOP is fucking up and how to fix it. I kind of wonder, he ran for was he Congress or Senate? I forget which one. He had a populist platform. I'm kind of wondering if he's going to try to be pull out Trump, try to be the transformational populist and do that, because he's in the machine. He sees what's getting screwed up. I'm kind of thinking he might start throwing people under the bus if he runs for president.
Vance?
Yeah.
It's possible. There's enough to distance yourself from.
Mm-hmm.
Just the complete inability of the Republican Congress to accomplish anything that seems to be in the best interest of the people of the United States is definitely a platform that somebody could stand on. I personally, if Vance decided to become a little less measured, a little less polished, and set himself up as kind of a Teddy Roosevelt character, like, I'm going to be a trust buster, I'm going to actually take it to these businesses
Which,
that are
yeah,
out
I
there
brought it up.
exploiting
That's
you.
what Teddy Roosevelt did. You know, he realized that, you know what, we've got to give these people something, or the whole system's fucked.
Exactly.
And I'm kind of thinking Vance is going to run on that.
That right there would be something that people could rally around. And, you know, we need at this point a Teddy Roosevelt like character to just come in with an axe and just take things down. You know, the kind of anarchist, libertarian, laissez-faire side of me doesn't want the government involved in business world as much as it can be. But at some point, we have to realize that we do live in a two-tiered society where we do have business interests and we do have a government. As much as that might piss the anarchists and the libertarians off, we do have these things, and these two things, they necessarily have to have an antagonistic relationship with one another. You have to have the businesses that are involved in business, in making money, in making products, and you have to have the government, which is involved in the welfare of the people. Not welfare like handing out give-me-dats, but I mean taking a look at the situation on the ground and saying, how can we make life better for the people who actually make up this constituency? And sometimes the business interests and the people interests do not intersect. And at that point, it becomes imperative on the government to swing the big stick and put an end to things. And that's not communism. That's not socialism. That's using the power of the government for what it is supposed to be, which is to make the life of the constituency better.
Yeah, and you know, I'm trying to find it here real quick. The 2025 numbers for average wealth versus median wealth came out.
Okay.
Obviously, number one, Switzerland. Number two, U.S. for average wealth. I mean, if you were just get median wealth, what would you guess?
Is this like a per year income, or is this like a gross wealth?
Per year? Yep.
I'm going to say somewhere around like $58,000 a year.
I'm talking in all the world, like where we rank from one to however many countries. We're 28th in the world in median wealth.
Oh, geez.
But behind such powerhouses as Slovenia, Malta, you know, all of Europe are behind them in median wealth. We're barely above Greece for median wealth. So that shows you how we're doing. And this is in 2025. 2022 on Wikipedia, we were like 12th. So yeah, the gap is
like
the gap's out of control. Yep. And we moved up
insane.
on average wealth. I mean, we were like fourth or fifth, and now we're second.
Okay, yeah, so that right there is good, but the gap is widening. That's not necessarily a bad thing if your rich people are insanely rich and your poor people are also insanely rich compared to the rest of the world. So you kind of have to like compare apples and apples. I mean, even a poor person in the United States is doing a lot better than a lower middle class person in like even Europe. But the fact that the gap is getting that wide is a talking point that the DSA types will definitely point to.
Yeah, and valid point they have there. I mean, when the rich...
I was going to say, we do have the world's first trillionaire.
Yeah, an African-American, too. Let's see, we're getting close to the end here. Let me make sure we hit on... we haven't talked about the Iran war at all a little bit. Get into the weeds.
It's on again, it's off again.
On again, off again, on again, off again. We talked about the people behind the scenes trying to tank it. We had some deaths today. Who would have guessed the Air Force would become the most dangerous? I mean, when you and I were in, chair force, they were never in harm's way. Now I think almost every death you hear about anymore is some poor sucker getting blown up sitting in a air base in the Middle East.
Mm-hmm. I know an air base in Jordan got absolutely fucking rocked today.
Mm-hmm.
Like I saw actual video of the strike incoming, and you got people just scattering, and the missiles come in and just start blowing shit up, and it's like, holy shit.
Yeah, and our stores are getting lower and lower. We don't have the production to keep up. Meanwhile, China is just sitting over there taking notes, really seeing what we're screwing up, if they want to get Taiwan back, seeing how our supply of our air defenses is working. And I think they're probably realizing that if they want Taiwan, it's probably theirs at this point.
Yeah, unfortunately, this Iran debacle was probably the biggest unforced error in U.S. military history.
Mm-hmm.
When they're talking about wanting to take
even worse than probably Vietnam at this point.
Oh yeah, and it's such a compressed scale too. Like Vietnam lasted for years. This has been going on for 138 days, and our defense munitions are like, oh, we're almost depleted. It'll take us 10 years to build it back. Strategic Petroleum Reserve is almost completely dry. We're not pumping enough out of the ground. That project down in Venezuela hasn't produced any fruit just yet.
Yeah, and at this point, I mean, it was shown during the Clinton campaign that you can't win a war just with airstrikes. During the whole Bosnia Croat debacle, they bombed the shit out of that place, and nothing really came of it. I mean, I think they blew up every single energy substation you can think of in that country. We could do that in Iran. It's not going to change anything.
Nope, Iran is a lot bigger.
They're still going to be able to fire up a $5,000 drone and send it over towards Jordan or Bahrain and blow up a bunch of airmen who don't have proper defenses. That's the biggest thing that pisses me off about it, is that those guys over there on those bases in the Middle East they're in what, trailers?
Yeah.
Just sitting around in a trailer sweating their balls off, and then they get blown up.
Yeah. I'm telling you, man, at this point, with the number of articles that I've seen from Israeli newspapers and the amount of white papers that I've read about from Israeli think tanks saying that they are fully that if push came to shove, they would have no problem with pivoting away from the United States towards India or China as their closest protector. This is not an alliance. They are not our friends. They view it is completely one-sided. We give them everything that they want for their protection and benefit, and anything that we get out of them, technology-wise or whatever it is completely contingent on us being their umbrella. It is one-sided. They would have no problem kicking us to the curb if, we had like a civil war or something, or if our government just said, you know what, you guys are on your own, they'd be like, okay. They'd bitch about it.
I remember us talking shit about Russia. What were those countries that they had something going on? I can't think of the Slavic countries. They had something going on, and Russia was a protector of one of them, and they pretty much left them to hang out in the dry. Remember that? Oh shit, what was that? Anyways,
are you talking about the Armenia Azerbaijan thing that happened a year or two ago?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And we brought up that Russia looks like shit because they couldn't do anything they were protecting who? Azerbaijan?
Yeah, and they couldn't do anything because they were tied up in Ukraine.
Yeah. Not
And
only does it suck for our soldiers, it kind of sucks. It makes it sucks for these Middle East countries that were like, yeah, let us put our base here. We'll be your big papa and protect you from anything that goes wrong, right?
yeah,
Why would any? Obviously, I mean, we've got a shitty record in the Middle East if you bring up the Kurds on
yeah.
holding our promises. But why would any of these countries trust us for anything going forward?
I think that at this point the damage might already be done, but I think that if the United States tomorrow decided to say that we are going to take a complete hands-off approach to the Middle East going forward, we're going to pull out all of our troops, we're going to dismantle our bases, we're going to pull our fleets out of the area except for whatever's needed to just patrol the area for piracy or whatever, because that's our job. We're the defender of the seas. Just like we're going to pull all non-essential everything out, and we're going to leave you guys to your own devices. We're not going to cover for Israel anymore. We're not going to put bases in these other Middle Eastern countries. What we're going to do from now on is you pump the gas, we will buy it at market rate. If we told everybody over there that is going to be the extent of our involvement in your area, that would give those countries over there no reason to hate us anymore. Osama bin Laden, after 9/11, he dropped a manifesto that has been almost completely memory holed. Now, this was one of Tucker Carlson's red pill moments, was actually reading bin Laden's manifesto about why they did 9/11. Like, the only reason that those people over there hate us is because we're meddling in their affairs. And the only reason that we're meddling in their affairs is because the Yan'an plan. So
which
they
shows
can
how that plan shows how, I don't know if Israel's just incompetent or what. I mean, we beat the shit out of all their neighbors. So Iran was the last big dog in the whole region. We told the rest of the people in the area, yeah, we'll protect you. And what the fuck did they think would happen?
I honestly think that countries like Qatar and Oman and the UAE and Saudi Arabia honestly probably thought that anything that would go down between us and Iran would stay between us and Iran and Israel. And when their shit started getting rocked by just indiscriminate fire, I think that was a rude. I didn't see that coming. I didn't think that Iran would launch missiles into like population centers in Qatar,
which apparently Israel knew the whole time.
Shoot them at our bases. Yeah, you could see that coming because they're our bases and we're the target and they're the target, but in a war. But like launching shit into civilian infrastructure in these Gulf countries, I don't think anybody saw that coming. But Iran's backed into a corner. I don't blame them for it.
I can't imagine Iran just came up with that on the fly, though. I'm going to guess that was part of their war doctrine the whole time. The president. I get all my Ahmadudes and whatever. No, the guy that was Ahmadinejad. I'm sure he knew that the whole time. I'm sure he fed it to Israel that here's Iran's war plans. Israel knew what happened. They probably just didn't give a shit.
Yeah, and that's another thing that we didn't hit on, and we're almost out of time, and I'm almost out of battery. But the Section 219 of the NDAA that was recently struck down, that is the part that I think is so nefarious, is that we're going from aid to partnership with Israel, and if Israel had advanced knowledge that a strike on Iran would end up in strikes across the entire Gulf state region because they are hosting our bases, they didn't tell us. I mean, seeing the Strait of Hormuz getting closed down was a blind man could see that one coming. But indiscriminate strikes on civilian infrastructure in the Gulf states, if Israel knew and didn't tell us that and decided to drag us into their little Yan'an plan war anyway, that's something that if Israel's trying to, and that's this Yinon plan. If Israel's plan is to get all of their Arab neighbors to be so concerned with infighting that they're too busy to focus on Israel, then having foreknowledge of Iranian strikes on civilian infrastructure in their neighborhood and not telling anybody about it is one of those things that would galvanize those neighbors to be like, okay, Israel's got to go.
Yeah. And I was trying to look at where this story came from about Ahmadinejad, and it was, let's see, there was the report was sent to the New York Times and a Israeli newspaper, Haaretz. I never heard of that one.
Haaretz? I've heard of them.
Yep. So that's who this report was sent to. So I'm wondering if it came from within the Israeli government itself. It came from our government who found it out at this point, and somebody inside was like, this is completely fucked. People need to know this. I can see where it came from, any of those.
If I was somebody in the U.S. government and we're bombing a country that's 90 million people strong in the Middle East, and we're doing it on behalf of a country that has a former president on their payroll and they didn't let us know, I would be pissed. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm sorry, you have the former president of Iran on your payroll and we're bombing Iran and you didn't think to tell us that? You didn't think that he might be an exploitable source of intelligence?
Yeah.
Like, you fuckers are on your own now.
Yeah. I mean, and it keeps escalating. This is such a mess now at this point. I have no idea where it's going to go from here. Where is it? I mean, I guess Iran just keeps blowing up all the other countries in the Middle East, and eventually Trump's going to have to tactical nuke shit or blow up some dams or something.
Well, there's B-2 bombers on the way over there, and the U.S. government issued a cautionary advisory today. I would pull it up and send it to you, but I can't exit out of this window without my feed going tits up. But
there was still talk of him taking over that Karg Island. Terrible for Marines.
No, you would. You can't do it. You can't do it. It's within range of conventional artillery. It's
nuke Karg Island, I guess.
You blow up Karg Island and you destroy the entire purpose for taking Karg Island, which is the oil infrastructure that's on it. You can't blow it up. You can't take it with conventional infantry because they'll get slaughtered by the shore artillery. I mean, the whole thing, it's a no-win situation. And shouldn't have done it. What Trump needs to do is just pack up and leave. That's the only option.
He won't. I mean, Trump doesn't have. He wants a legacy. He wants to be on Mount Rushmore. He wants to be known as the greatest. He still thinks he can just do art of the deal out of this.
No, I'm sorry, Trump. You put down your negotiating strategy in a book 40 years ago. People are wise to the game.
Yeah. Completely fucked. I guess we'll see next week where it turns out, because I'll be around next week. Got a little bit of a vacation going on. I'm back for 1 or 2 more weeks, and we're over an hour. I think we got to everything we wanted to get to. We're back to living in it seems like the show ebbs and flows. We have some weeks where no changes, and then now we're in a time period again where we can't even talk about everything in a 1-hour show for the week.
Yeah, and we had like a 2-week backlog of where the world decided that it was just going to lore dump on us.
Yeah. So like I said, we're over an hour. Thanks for joining us. Some of you did stick around through. I noticed we had a bunch of people sitting in the lobby waiting for the show to start, and they vamoose. So those of you that stuck it out with this, thanks. We'll have the tech difficulties worked out next week, so we can start on time and you're not stuck listening to our spinning intro reel on Rumble or YouTube. Go check out our website, roadtoliberty.com, R2L Pod on Twitter. Alex Jones Store /R2L. Let's see, Facebook /Roads to Liberty. If you follow us on YouTube, go follow us on Rumble. Rumble, go follow us on YouTube. I doubt we'll ever get shut down on Rumble, but you never know. So we will be back next week, and stay honky.